Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi Akansha. No lessons from the previous session, right? Still calling me sir, everyone. So yeah, just tell me one thing, when can we start? I think we're already delayed for 12 minutes, I guess.
Yes, sir. We are little delayed. Uh,
I think people are still joining. I'll wait for 2 minutes and then we'll get started at sharp 7:15.
sure, sir.
Cool, then. How to build practical intuition in ML? That is a good question, but you're not asking this to the right person. I haven't worked a lot with ML, so I personally prefer to not comment on anything that I personally haven't tried my hands on practically. But you can do one thing, you can reach me out on LinkedIn, you can ping me on LinkedIn. I'll connect you with a few people whom I know in my team. So, with the people I've worked in the past, I'll connect you with them so that they can help you out. The ultimate goal is to get help from someone. It doesn't matter whether it is me or someone else. So yeah, Dev, you can ping me once on LinkedIn. I'll leave my contact here in case you need it. I know a very talented guy who can help you out in ML. I'll connect you with him. So yeah, a little low energy this time. It was a great session last time. People were, very active on the chat. Can we stay active in the chat? Because, considering the sessions, well, where, most of the times that we do with a huge bunch of crowd and we're not able to interact with everyone. But considering that a little low, so what we can do is we can try and make this session a little interactive, just like the last session. I picked up almost every question that you guys asked. So yeah, it's great to know you folks. So you guys can ask your questions from the previous session as well and what we're going to discuss in this session as well. And yeah, I would also love to know you guys personally as well, like in chat. Mm, So so yeah, before we get started, I'll give you some sort of context before we start. So this session is going to be, wait, there's a question by Sarvan. Sir, please tell, as I am a beginner, so what is a way to understand code base in which we will be contributing? So I think I took this question in the previous session as well. So, what earlier used to happen was, when you're trying to contribute to an open source repository or a project, what you would have to do is maybe sit with that code base for like 2 to 3 days and try to get some context by reading the code base, by reading the folder structure, by reading the documentation or the README file. But we are living in an age of a privilege that we have a bunch of, AI agents, like we have anti-gravity, we have codex, we have this copilot, we have a bunch of, AI tools. So what you can simply do is you can simply set the project up following the readme file or the documentation that the project has shared. You can ask anti-gravity or any other AI agent like Cursor to try and explain what the code base is, what are the files and the folders that I need to be taking care of, what are the ups and downs, what are the edge cases, how do I get started. So basically, this AI agent would be some sort of a Jarvis to your Tony Stark. So you ask that particular AI agent to help you with understanding the project. But if you still don't get it properly, or there are a few things that the agent might not be able to explain to you, that is that is the time when you get to realize the worth of the open source community. You can just simply go to an organization Slack channel or the community page and go simply ask to the maintainers or the people in the organization. They will help you out as well. This is the same case with Keploy as well. There are a lot of people contributing to us. There we get a bunch of messages on our Slack. We try to respond to them within the 5 to 6 minutes, I guess. We get replies from us when we're available. So yeah, these are the few best practices that I would suggest. Kishan is saying I was doing ML, done some projects too. One is deployed end to end, but most people said the opportunities are very less for ML. So I'm looking at data analytics now. So I'm a little confused now. What's your suggestion? Again, I would say one thing: no field is completely vanished, be it any sort of, you know, trend in the industry, be it AI, be it a code agent that does all of your problems, you still are the one who is leading from the front. You're supposed to use these tools properly, right? But I wouldn't say that ML opportunities are totally gone or they have vanished. In fact, there are a bunch of good opportunities as well. For the suggestion that you're looking for, I would say you're not asking the right person, since I have not worked a lot with ML. I have worked with RAG, I have worked with AI agents, but for you as well, I would say the same thing. You can try to ping me on LinkedIn. I will connect you to a friend of mine who's also, a very active person in the community, who takes up questions from people and tries to help them out personally. So you can reach out to him to get your queries solved. So cool. I think there were two questions. Are we good to go then? If we are good to go, can you guys write "let's go" in the chat? I'll also do it. This session is going to be an interesting one. You guys will get to know a lot of things from this session, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot you guys might have heard a lot about the importance of front-end development or stack development in general, right? If you do, just write "let's go" in the chat. Mhm. Yep. So, there are a bunch of technologies when you enter college, or, when you start learning about development, people recommend you to become a front-end engineer. When I came to college back in 2021, there were a bunch of people telling about different things. And they were talking about, if you want to pursue something, some sort of a niche in, software industry, you can start with front-end development because it is comparatively easier. It is more interesting, which excites a lot of people. But at the same time, you guys must have been a little confused. We start with HTML, CSS, and JS, and then we started jumping to React JS. So this is some sort of a common path that people follow. Does this resonate with you guys? If this resonates with you, you can write "let's go" in the chat. Yeah, Adisha resonates with it. Seems like you guys have tried front-end development a little bit. So this session will be more about front-end development itself. I'll teach you the best practices you should follow, not just to build UI effectively or just make UI, but also to make it faster without using AI, by the way. You will learn in this session, let's just say, so yeah, we will talk about Next.js. It is okay if you don't have no any prior knowledge of Next.js or React.js in general. We'll start in such a way that anyone who has no prior knowledge can also tag along and start learning the same. So we'll start from the very basics, in such a way that you understand everything and you can follow along as well. The only prerequisite would be having Node.js installed in your application. I mean your system. So before we get started, I just want one more context from you guys. So how many of you have tried front-end development in the past or have been trying it in the present as well? It could be anything. It could be React.js, it could be HTML, it could be CSS or JavaScript, anything in general. If you have, you can write it in the chat. You can write "let's go" as we have been doing. Just give me a minute. So yeah, I can't see the chat. Just give me a minute. Mm. I'll do one thing. I'll join with my phone as well so that I can read the chat as well. So let's get started. We'll talk about working with Next.js and UI libraries in this session. This session won't be just developing UI. We will talk about Next.js, how to get started with Next.js, what are the different folders and files in Next.js when you're working with web development or front-end development in general. Then we'll try and understand how you can make UI faster using UI libraries. We will firstly design a page, then we will develop the page, and then we will deploy it as well. And we will be doing this step by step, right? So you will be learning how to build UI faster with Next.js and how to use UI libraries. And at the same time, we will also talk about how to test APIs fastly using Keploy. So in the last session, there were a few queries that you guys wanted to know about Keploy a little more. So in this session, we'll talk about how you can test your APIs faster than ever using Keploy. So if we are good to go, You guys can write, let's go in the chat so that we can get started quickly. Let's go. I'll also write it. Let's go. So I'll share my screen again. Hi Kansha, hi Atharv, hi Kunal, hi Adrisha, hi Rohit, hi Karuna, hi Dev. I just wanted to read your names out so that I can also know who am I talking to in this session. So yeah, I'll quickly share my screen. I'll give you a little bit of roadmap of what we are going to do in this session. We'll simply go to our whiteboard here. So, so we'll start with very basics. We'll start with, considering that from the previous session as well, almost every one of you know about GitHub, right? So we'll start with simply creating a GitHub repo where we will be storing all the code. I will share this as well with you. Then we will set up Vercel. So Vercel for the website deployment. So in these steps, what we will be doing is we'll simply create a repository. We'll will create the application, or let's just say the website on VS Code, set it up on Vercel, and deploy our website. Then we'll talk about the files and folders in our Next.js app for UI development. Let me zoom in a little so that you guys can read. And then we will use learn, learn what are UI libraries. Then we will go to installing and using UI libraries. And then we will try to design a simple page and develop it on Next.js. Cool. And then at the end of the session, we will talk about how to test your APIs fastly using Keploy. So yeah, this is all what we're going to talk about in this session. We'll do a questionnaire at the end. Question from the end. So yeah, these are the things that we are going to talk about. I hope it brings a little bit of motivation to learn something new to you guys as well. So if you guys are motivated, just like me, you guys can write, let's go in the chat so that we can get started again. And we'll start from the very first step. I'll pin this message so that anyone joining a little late can get a context about what we're going to do in this session. So yeah, so you guys must know about code editors, right? An IDE or a code editor. So how many of you use VS Code? Right? Let's go in the chat so that we can stick to VS Code itself. Dave uses VS Code. Kishan does. Adrisha does. So yeah, fair enough. We'll go with VS Code as well. You guys can go with any other IDE as well. You guys can go with Cursor. You guys can go with Anti-Gravity, since we have so many agentic, AI based code editors as well. By the way, Arpan, I love your energy. I'll remember your name. So what we are going to do is we'll just simply create a new window here so that we can get started, right? So this would be a setup. It would be a simple, let's just say, code editor where we just simply try and install Next.js and get started. But before we do so, let's talk about Next.js. Why are we using Next.js? So I hope a few of you might have tried Next.js as well, and you guys have at least heard of Next.js. So it is a React.js framework. React is a library, and Next.js is built on top of it as a framework. So a lot of people get confused whether it is a library or a framework. So you have to be very clear about it. It is a framework built on top of React.js. The best part about Next.js is that it is very well SEO optimized. It serves both as a client side and a server side rendering. So what you can also do with Next.js is you can simply, let's just say if you are creating an application, right? Let's just say a full stack application. It has a front end, it has a backend, right? And they are connected with an API. So it is slash API. So what in ideal scenarios you would do is you would simply create a front end for your application. It could be, let's just say, in let's just say React.js or Vue.js or Astro.js or Next.js as well. Cool. But if you're doing so, you would be creating a separate API or a separate backend for it, right? Maybe it could be on Django, it could be on Node.js, it could be on, let's just say, Spring Boot, right? So it is basically two separate kind of, project structures that you follow to build. Think about Next.js. Does this sound interesting to you guys? If it does, let's write Next.js, open the chat. Oh, by the way, one interesting thing about Next.js is that it is being, what do you call it, maintained by Vercel, Next.js, and it is 100% open source. So what really stands out is it has a very good developer community. You can also use other UI frameworks or libraries like Vue, Astro.js, and all. But the industry, almost every open source community, let's just say, or any SaaS platform, they use Next.js. Why? Because it is, first of all, very fast. The UI development is very fast. It has a bunch of UI libraries to build your front end very fast. And the best thing above everything is that it is open source and it has a very good community in general. So it is used by almost 5 million people. And every time there is a change, or let's just say a release, you can just simply go check out their code. So what did these guys change in the code? What are the features that we might be getting in the future? Maybe we can read the pull requests as well in other UI libraries, or let's just say any other framework. You would be getting to know about the feature once the feature is released. But in case of Next.js, since it is open source, it has a great community, you can simply go through the code base as well. I'll just do one thing. I'll put the source code repo in the chat so you guys can also take a look. So we'll be using Next.js here. So before we get started with the actual practical things, I'll also tell you about what are UI libraries. So in a website, what are the different things you see? So let's just say that I have a website, right? Let's just say this is a website. So in a website, you must see different components. Like let's just say this is a header, or let's just say a nav bar. Then you get to a hero section, right? Then let's just say there is a testimonial section or the user section. When you're creating a SaaS platform website or any other website in general, there are a bunch of buttons which you feel like, wow, this animation looks very nice. How did this person do it? The UI looks fabulous. How this person was able to do so? There are carousels, there are cards, and there are other bunch of things as well that we call as UI elements, or let's just say UI components. So what happens when you build a website is that you divide this particular a single website into multiple components. A navbar could be a component, a hero section could be a component, a button could also be a component. When you are building a website by yourself manually, you are creating all of these components one by one, and creating them again and again. What you can simply do is, which is the best practice that we're going to talk about in this session, is that let's just say that you built a navbar. So let's just say you've used this navbar in this particular page, but there's one more page that you want to use this navbar in. So you go create the new page, right? But would you want to rebuild this navbar again and again? Would you like to write the code for this navbar again and again? So the best practice here would be to just simply create a reusable component, a component that you can use again and again in different pages. So what I'll do is I'll just simply create a file for this UI component called as navbar. I'll use this component in the different page as well. So there's the fact that you can reuse components already makes front-end development very fast. That you're already, creating different components and reusing them again and again. Cool. So this is something what people and developers have been doing for ages, that creating reusable components. But what if I tell you that, even these components that are commonly used in every website, be it a SaaS platform website or a fintech website or an e-commerce website, there are a few things that are very commonly used everywhere, right? Like buttons could be a thing, or let's just say carousel could be a thing. So UI libraries provide you these components beforehand so that you can just simply pick them up, use in your own application so that you don't have to spend time doing repetitive stuff. For example, navbar is something very common in every website, right? So what libraries will provide you is a navbar component that you can simply use in your own application or a website. So there are a bunch of UI libraries that you guys can explore. Most of them are open source as well. I'll show you a few of them, but again, I want the energy here. Let's write UI libraries open the chat. Or let's just say, let's go in the chat. That was right. Let's go. Adrisha says, let's go. Athav says, UI library, OP. Cool, cool. Let's go. Let's go. The energy is great. I like it. So, talking about UI libraries, you can, explore a bunch of UI libraries. One that I personally like is aceternity.com, aceternity.ui. So what this UI library will do is that it will give you a bunch of components that you can use again and again. For example, let's just say that there's this carousel, right? And this looks very nice. This has been used in Apple's websites quite often, right? Very oftenly used. This is a complete component, right? And if I were to make this component by myself, I would first have to design it. I will have to think of, what is going to be in the UI. And then I simply start to develop it, right? But what UI libraries do is they eliminate all these steps for you and provide you UI components by default that you can simply use. So Aceternit is a UI library. This is also very famous because of their, the CEO, that is Manu Paji. He is an Indian, and this UI library is pretty famous in the market as well, since it is also being talked about in the community very well. So we'll use component from this library. We can also use components from other UI libraries. For example, Radix UI is one. This is also a very famous UI library where you get a bunch of things that you can simply pick up and use in your own websites. For example, let's just say I want to make a bookmark, save as a bookmark button. I won't do it myself. I'll just simply use this inside my code base, right? So similarly, we also have Hero UI. I'll give you the links to all of these libraries in the chat as well. So you see, this is a calendar component. So if I were to make a calendar component, it would take me at least 1 hour to 2 hours, right? But what I can simply do is I can just pick it up and use it in my project, right? So there are a bunch of UI libraries that you can try. Most of them are open source as well. So for example, if you take a look at Hero UI, they gave a link to their GitHub as well. So what you can simply do is you can take a look at their GitHub as well. And above everything, if you feel like you are talented enough, or you are motivated enough to make UI libraries and contribute to it. For example, let's just say I think of a component that I feel is very nice. What I can just simply do is I can go to the repository, I can create an issue and raise a pull request, and your UI component would be live in the Hero UI as well, or any UI library as well. So you're not just using them, you're also contributing to them. So that is something, you know open source brings to the table. You're not just learning, you're also contributing to it. So yeah, let's have open source up in the chat so that we can appreciate the folks, open source folks. And yeah, one more thing. So the building block of all these UI libraries is ShadCN. ShadCN was built by a guy. He has kept his identity anonymous for now, till now. And he was the one who started building the a thing like a UI library. He built ShadCN, and people started using it. And every other UI library, almost every UI library is built on top of it. So they use this UI library. They are built on top of uh, ShadCN. What they do is they just simply maybe create a fork of this, or maybe a replica of this, and build on top of it, or maybe take inspiration from them as well. And I'll tell you a fun fact. The guy who created ShadCN is now also a part of Vercel. So you see, it started by a very simple side project by the person who created ShadCN. A few people started using it, and eventually it got so famous that it became a building block of other UI libraries. And at the same time, the guy who created it got to the mecca of UI development, or let's just say development tools, that is Vercel. So he's working at Vercel now. So yeah, let's also write ShadCN in the OP because he is the father, like ShadCN is the father of all the UI libraries. So yeah, we'll get started with it now. So we'll start with creating a GitHub repository first so that, we can keep a track of everything and we can also deploy our project that we're going to build here. So I'll just simply go to GitHub. I'll go to my GitHub profile. Uh, we'll simply create a new repository on GitHub. So let's name it. Can you guys help me with some suggestion? What should we name this project? Shall we name it? What shall we name it? Let's just say Kalyani UI library. No, not really a good name. I suck at naming things, files or folders or anything in general. I want suggestions from you guys. UI dot ShadCN. Not a bad one. Not a bad one. This could be a name. It could be Go UI. Fair enough. Fair enough. I want some creative names from you guys. Not something like an asteroid destroyer or something like that. Something unique. Something you feel like could be a good contribution from your side. If I like the name you suggest, I'll also mention you in this repository that I'll be sharing with you folks. Learn then earn. That is a creative name. That is actually pretty deep. But will it be a good name for a UI library? Come on, guys. You can. Okay, fellow UI seems to be a nice name. I'll pick it up for now. It was given to me by Rohit, so I'll mention him as well. Rohit, you can do one thing. You can give me your LinkedIn or any social. Okay, Winter of UI is also nice. I think I'll go with Winter of UI. I'll do one thing. Atharv and Rohit, you guys can give me your LinkedIn or Twitter URL in the chat. I'll simply put it up in the readme file as well. So we'll name it Winter of UI for now. So let's name it Winter of UI. Uh, Demonstration of UI build fast UI building in the winter of code IIIT Kalyani section on Next.js. Thanks to Athar and Rohit for helping me out with the nomenclature. Uh, Athar and Rohit, I want a URL of you guys, like a LinkedIn or a Twitter something. Yeah, I got Athar's LinkedIn profile. I'll just simply copy it. I got from Rohit as well. I'll just give a shout out to you guys for helping me out in the nomenclature. Oh shit, I accidentally created the repository. Never mind. We'll create a README file and I'll make sure to add these two profiles in the chat. I mean, in the README file. So now that we have a repository, we'll set it up quickly on our VS Code. So I'll create a new window on VS Code. I clone the repository. This is considered to be a good practice to set things up quickly beforehand itself, so that you don't have to do it again and again, right? So what I'll do is I'll just simply clone the repository, that is Winter of UI. I'll put it up in the desktop for now. So we now have set up the repository on our local. So now we'll start with creating the Next.js application. But before that, I want you guys to check out these libraries. I have segregated them. You guys can check these libraries out. You can maybe star mark their repositories or maybe keep them for future references. I'll pin this as well. So to create a GitHub repository, you just simply need one thing. You just simply need to write this command npx create -meg -app. If you do this npx create next app, it would start creating the application for you. But since I want to use the latest version, I'll just simply use @latest. And this is basically the name of your application. If you want the name, you just simply write, let's just say Winter of Code UI, something like this. But if you are already inside a project folder and you want the project to get started in the same folder, you just simply write full stop, and slash. It will create the project with the name of the parent folder. So I'll simply try and copy this command and paste it on my terminal. So what I'm doing here is I'll just simply, first of all, let me give you a demo how this actually works. So let's just say that this is the command I'm following. If I write something like my app, so this would create a website and a project folder inside of my parent folder. So let's just say if I press enter, it will start creating the folder structure for me. I'll just answer the few questions here. So you see, it created a my app folder, and this is going to be the project folder for us. But what best practice that I personally feel like following is that I like to create it with the name of the parent folder. Since Winter of UI is already a very good name, it is a good folder structure as well. So what I'll do is I'll just simply use the same command, but this time instead of giving it a name, I'll just simply write dot slash. So it will create the project folder structure inside of the parent folder itself. I'll do one thing. I'll give this command to you guys in the chat so that you guys can follow. Let's just say, so one single source of truth, one single command, and you can simply get started with your application. No complex installation process, no out of the box things to include. You just simply write one command and your application gets started. In fact, the official React documentation suggests people to use Next.js to build your application. There are a few reasons, because first of all, it is very fast and it is very well SEO optimized. It has a very good meta structure that makes your website's visibility a little improved. How does it do it? So if you create a Next.js application, there are two important folders. First is the source folder. You can have it or might not have it. You can just simply have the app folder as well. So what is inside this app folder? Inside this app folder, we have two important files. First of all is the page.tsx file. So in a website, the very first thing that you see is a landing page, right? So the first thing that you see, for example, this is a website. Let's just say it is website.com. So this website might have, you know, a lot of pages inside it, right? It might have page A, page B, and so on, right? But how does the project folder knows which is the page where to land first? So the page.tsx file defines what would be shown on the first page, what would be shown on your home page. So this would be inside of the page.tsx file. Cool. And this is the parent page.tsx file. So for other, let's just say there are other pages as well. So inside of this folder structure, I would create the name of that particular, let's just say, page that I want to create. For example, let's just say I want to create an about page. So I would simply write about here, and inside of this about folder, I would write page.tsx. So now I created an about page here, right? So if you do this with other UI frameworks or libraries, there's a lengthy process to make pages and route them, right? But in Next.js, you just simply create the folder name, and inside of that folder, you simply write create a file called as page.tsx. So now we'll start with page.tsx, right? So this is the parent page.tsx file that everything that you see on the landing page or the home page will be kept here. For example, if I try to run this application, to run Next.js application, you just simply need to write npm run dev. So now our application will get started on localhost 3000. If 3000 is occupied, it will simply create it in 3001. So let's wait for it to load. Just compiling. So you see, this is a template given to us by Next.js. So you see this line. You will see that this line is there in the page.tsx file. So everything that you see inside page.tsx file is the single source of truth for the home page of your website. So for example, let's just say I remove everything from here. Let's just say I have only one paragraph here. For this, I would say, let's write hello. Hello, winter of code party friends. So if I save this and get back to my website, so you see whatever is written inside of this page.tsx file, you get to see it on the landing page of your website. So Were you able to get it? What I'm trying to say? Were you able to understand the installation steps and how to get started with the folder structure? Who is writing yes? We're not supposed to write yes in the chat. We're supposed to write let's go in the chat. Don't forget the drill. Just because you're dedicated and focused. Cool. Let's go then. So we are now clear with how does Next.js renders your application or website, right? We start with the very basic page.tsx file. Everything that you see on the website would be here in this file. It could, contain elements. It could contain paragraphs, headings, and so on and on. It can also include, let's just say, components that you build. For example, let's just say I pick some component from a UI library, right? Let's just say I pick this accordion from this UI library. I will create a component for this. I can also put this component inside of this particular folder structure, right? So page.tsx is the single source of truth for every page in your website, be it a pillar page, be it a products page or an about page, whatever it is. This would be the very first page that you would be editing. And then comes the layout.tsx file. This is the brain of your website. By brain of your website, I mean you will store metadata and everything that is common in all of the pages. So for example, if I create a separate page and I put components inside of this page, right, it will start with, just give me a minute, I'll put something here. Let's just say this is about. Cool. So everything that you have inside this page.tsx file, only the thing that is inside the page.tsx would be displayed. But if there is something which is inside the layer.tsx file, let's just say a nav bar or a footer, which is common in every page, I will put it here. So this would be common in every page. And layout.tsx will also include everything. For example, the metadata, what fonts you're using, where is the styling file that you're using. Let's just say the title and description as well. So if you go to the application that we created, it has a title here, right? Let's just say I'll write the name for it. Let's just say Winter of UI website created partly using Next.js and UI libraries. Let's just say cool. So now you see I have a title called as Winter of UI as well here, right? And the fun fact, the very fun feature that I personally like about Next.js is that you see there's this file called as 5icon.icu, right? This is not ICU, sorry. So you see the default 5 icon that you have is from Vercel. You can simply change it here as well. So what I'll do is, let's just say I'll pick a logo from, I'll pick some famous logo. Let's just say GDG logo. I'll simply cool. Let's just say I download this logo here in my downloads, and I put this inside of my folders, right? I'll delete this favicon.ico file. The file that I have for GDG, I'll use this file as my favicon. Let's name it properly, favicon.ico. So now, if you go to layout.tsx and save this file, so you see the fab icon that you're seeing, it is of GDG. It is not Vercel anymore. So you see, things are very simple. Every fab icon that you see, especially if it is from a Next.js application, it seems to be very simple and fast. It only took me 2 to 3 steps to create a new fab icon and maybe just use it as a fab icon, right? So now that we have set up the project, I'll do one thing. We'll start with the deployment first. So we'll follow something called as continuous deployment. Are we good to go? Let's go. Let's go in the chat so that we can learn about deployment as well. So I see Drisha's. Let's go. No more let's goes here. I want more. You guys want to learn about deployments, right? So what I'll do now is, since I have already created a repository, I won't have to set things up again and again. So what I'll do is I'll just simply push everything to my GitHub repository, and we'll use that repository to deploy our application on Vercel. But before we do that, I think I'm forgetting something. I need to give a shout out to Rohit and Athar. This is a Campus website UI created in the GDG IIIT Kalyani Winter of Code. We are using Next.js, TypeScript, and Tailwind CSS for this project. We are learning about UI library where you can read it. Also learn how to use Keploy for API testing. Special thanks to Athar and Rohit for helping me out with the normal nature. This won't be very style for now. I'll style it afterwards because we don't have a lot of time left. So I'll grab, just give me some time to grab Athar and Rohit's LinkedIn. Mhm. This is, oh sorry, this is Rohit. This is Athar. So I was just adding shoutouts. So now we will push everything to the repository that we created. So I'll just simply write the command git add, git commit, -m. I'll write a commit message here, init initial commit with create next app. I will just push it to. So I'll push everything to my repository. So if I go back to my repository here, that's the repository that I created. So I created this repository, right? So now when if we go to this winter of UI repository, we'll see all the code being, pushed here, right? So now we will log into Vercel. So you can just simply go to vercel.com. You just need to log in with your GitHub and you can deploy as many applications that you guys want. So I have like at least 40, 50, projects deployed on my Vercel personally, and it is 100% free of cost. So I'll just do one thing. I'll add a new project. Cool. I'll search for the repository that was Winter of UI. I'll simply import it. I'll define whether what UI library or framework we're using. Vercel is smart enough to figure out it itself, so it figured out that it is Next.js. But if it was some other UI library or framework, I would just simply choose it from here. And I can also choose which is the root directory. For in our case, it is the default root directory, and then I'll just simply deploy it. So now Vercel will start deploying my project, and I will have a live UI, that I can share it with my friends as well. So now what we have done is we've set up. Where is my TLDR? Mm, So what we have done till now, set up the repo following best practices, installed Next.js. Then what we did, deployed it on Vercel. Now, every time you push a change to this repository, Vercel will automatically detect what you changed. For now, we only have this, hello winter of code participants, right? But every time I push a change to my GitHub repository, I won't have to go to Vercel again and again and deploy. Vercel will automatically deploy everything for you. So now what we'll do is, I'll just update it here. So we are following continuous deployment. So uh, continuous deployment is, by the way, a process of, deploying things, as you go, as you create the application. You don't wait for the entire application to get, completed for the deployment. You just simply start deploying the application and Vercel will automatically update everything. So yeah, are we good to go? You guys understood what we are going to talk about in the session? Everything clear till now? Yeah, Tav says, let's go. He got a shout out in my readme file. Let's go. Any confusions or any questions till now? Or any clarifications you guys want till now? You guys can ask the questions. I'll read the questions at the end of the session as well. So now comes the main part that you guys are here for, how to make UI quickly. So we'll now jump to the most important part of the session, that is using UI libraries. So I'll try and use components from Eternity UI, the one that I mentioned at the start of this project, the session, sorry. So if I go to eternity.com and I go to components, I get to choose from a bunch of components. You can browse through them, through all the components, and pick the one that you like. Let's just say that, let me find a good component. I think this would be a good component. Hmm, I know a good component that you guys would like. Yeah, let's just say that this is a component. So you see in this component, this is some sort of a timeline component. So if I were to create this manually, the UI first of all looks very nice. Shout out to Manu Paji for doing this. But to run this, right, you can simply paste this command in your terminal, or you can set it up manually as well. So what manual installation is, you install all the dependencies that this component uses. For example, it is using tabular what is this? This is component is using tabular component is using icons from this library. It is using Tailwind CSS. It is using Framer Motion. Then it is creating a library file that you would be using again and again. And then inside the components folder, it has created a UI folder. Inside of this, it creates a timeline.tsx component, which you can use again and again. But to keep things easier and faster, we'll just simply copy this command. If you're using npm yarn pm bun, totally up to you. I'll use npm since we're using npm in this case. I'll just simply go and paste this command in my terminal. So you see this component, it will ask whether you want to create a component JSON file or not. I'll simply click yes. So what it is going to do is it will update everything accordingly. Whatever you guys need, it will update. So you see in manually adding things would have taken these many steps, creating this file, creating this file, and so on, right? But you can do it with simple one command in the terminal. But now if you go to the source directory, source folder, you see it has created a components folder. Inside of the components folder, it has created a UI component. I mean UI folder as well. So now you see there are two things that would be live on the website. And there's this components folder. Inside of this components folder, you would put all the components that we would be using inside the pages. For example, let's just say that I create, let's just say, a timeline component. So what I'll do is I'll just simply copy the code of this particular uh, demo that Manu Paji has set up for us. So what I'll do is inside the components folder, I'll create a file, let's just say career line.tsx. If you pay attention to the nomenclature, I have followed this particular, format. You can choose however you like, but the Next.js best practice is to name it like this, since the official documentation by Next.js also suggests the same. I'll do one thing. I'll just simply update the name of timeline component. The function name has been is a little different here, but to keep things very professional and follow the best practices, I'll name it something nice. You can use this as well. There's nothing wrong with it. So what I'll do is I'll just rename it to career timeline timeline. Yep. So now what I'll do is, since I've created this UI component, there's a difference between UI component and a normal component. A UI component is something that defines the structure and the UI of the component, and a simple component would be using this UI component. So you see, I've imported this timeline from this folder, UI/timeline, and we would be using this timeline in our project. For example, you see it is wrapped inside a timeline, and there is some data, and if I go to this data, it shows all the data that I will have inside the component. So we have created a UI component, we have created a normal component inside of which we are using the UI component. But now I want my application that I created to have this component on the website. So what I'll do is, if you guys remember that I told you a single source of truth is the page.tsx file. So I'll just simply simply add the component here. We name this career timeline, right? So I'll just simply write career timeline here and just simply save it. So if I go to my website now and maybe refresh it, save it. Oh, I think I closed the local host. I'll run it again since I closed my local host. So now if I go to my website, let's just say I go to this URL, I see the component that we created. So you see on your project, we are having this timeline component. And now if I wanted to create a component like this, it would have taken me so long to do so, right? But you see, it just took me two commands and one simple addition to the page.tsx file, and it created the component for me. So you guys think this is interesting or easy? If you do agree on this, then write Eternity UI OP in the chat. I'll also do it. Mm, Anurag says OP. You guys can also write let's go in the chat. So now so now we understand how to use UI libraries, how to pick up components and use it in your application. So now if I were to create a full-fledged application, what I can simply do is I can go to different UI libraries. There would be, let's just say, a bunch of components that I can use again and again, right? There would be maybe a navbar there would be a hero section, it would have a hero section. Let's just say we are using the same timing component as well. Then maybe we are using a carousel, let's just say carousel, and nothing much, just a footer and a, let's just say, a testimonial section. So we are now creating a simple website for the same, and we'll use these components. So what I'll do is I'll just simply look for a navbar component. Let's just say I'll again go to Eternity UI. I'll search for a navbar. So you see, this is navbar. So this is something, this would be the navbar that we're talking about. If you want to pick something else, you can also search again. Let's just say resizable navbar is a thing. Maybe we can use this one as well. So what I'll do is I'll go to installation. I'll copy this command. I'll paste it on the terminal. This time I won't close the terminal. So yeah, what this would do is inside the UI folder, it would create this UI component called as resizable navbar, right? So now we can use it again and again in different folders. So let's just say I will copy this. I see this, added a resizable navbar component. We won't use this for now since it is causing an error here. Let's just remove this for now. Yep, we're good to go. Mm, mm, let's remove this for now. Cool. I'll create a new component here that would be for navbar.tsx. And now I'll copy this entire thing. Mobile nav tab. I'll remove it for now. Mm, you guys want, you can fix these errors as well, but I'm just simply commenting them out for now. So what I'll do is I'll just maybe add this navbar file. I need to wrap it in GSX, I guess. Yep, you can wrap it in GSX. So now if I go back to my project, you see, I have a navbar as well. I have a navbar and a section as well. So if you want, you can maybe put some images here, put some content here as well. And at the same time, I also have a navbar here as well. You see, features, pricing, login, and so on, right? Maybe we can tweak something here. So let's just say we also have a features page here. So we'll create a page.tsx file here. Let's see if it is working properly or not. Mm, so you see, the features page is also something like this. If we want, let's just write something here. Mm, uh, let's say that we only have this career timeline. in this features page. So I hope you're getting my point that by simply creating two folders, UI folder and components folder, and the page .tsx file, that's it. That is everything that you need to understand or let's just say, routing or different pages. So I'll just do one thing. I'll put features here so that in the nav bar, if we get back to home page and click on features, it will redirect me to the features page. So now I hope you're getting a picture of how to create pages and sub pages. If you do so, then please write, let's go in the chat. I'll also write that. Did you guys learn something valuable to make UI quickly? Do you feel so? We'll also create a page. These are just components. We need to align them to make a simple application or a simple page as well. So let's do one thing. Let's pick up components. We already have the navbar component. Let's pick some other component as well and try to integrate it. This seems to be a very nice component. I'll simply install it. I'll install it here and I'll copy this code here. Let's call it the hero section of the website. Hero section of tsx. I'll paste the code here. This used to be UI container. Yeah, I think there's something wrong with the import. I'll do it manually. Okay. Mm, I think I need to wrap it up. Side of versus. Mm, okay. There is a spelling mistake here. Never mind. I'll do one thing. Import container scroll from. Yeah, the error is fixed now. So I'll do is I'll rename this. Let's just say I want to rename it to hero section. Cool. Now I can use this on my page.tsx file. So the first thing that I want people to see is the hero section, right? So what I'll do after the navbar is I'll put the hero section here. So now if I go back to the website, I would see the navbar first and then the hero section. Let's just say it is compiling. You see, I got this component here as well. This looks like a good component, right? You can do one thing, like the data that you're seeing here is just, placeholder. You can replace it with your actual data. Maybe you can create a portfolio for yourself or maybe some website and replace it with the actual content. Maybe you can add a picture of yourself here or the software that you're building or the project that you're building. In similarly in this case as well, I have also used this component back in 2024 for a project of mine, and it actually got selected as well, for the competition that I was UI competition that I was building it for. It was, I guess, events. So it totally depends on your creativity. How creative are you with that particular component? For example, I use this component, right? It seems like a very dull component, random data here. But if you're creative enough, you can make something out of it, right? This was uh, a website where I created, timeline of all the events that I conducted in my college. So it totally depends upon your creativity, how you're using it. There are so many components. Website is nothing more than a bunch of components, uh, you know, piled up together. So you can pick multiple components from here and add it in your application. So for now, let's just add some more components. Uh, I think I have a few components that you can try. Let's add this Apple carousel one. Yep, this is also a great component. Hmm. Let's just say I install it and I create a component for it as well. I'll name it Apple carousel.tsx. I'll paste the component here. Mm, okay, it is installing. So if you guys are able to understand what I'm trying to explain till now, you guys can write let's go again I want more less goes in the chat. You can write more than once as well. Spam is allowed in this case, in this particular session. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Cool. So we'll get back to this folder. There might be something wrong with the imports here. I'll fix them quickly. Mm, what's the error here? Okay, declared but never used. There seems to be something wrong. Mm, what it could be? Let's say I tried to import it manually. Import from carousel. Yep. This component seems to have some error. React is declared, but its value is never read. Okay, I removed it. React is not declared. Mm, I think there's something wrong with this component. We'll try and use some other component. Let's say I try to use some other component from the components. Let's try this component. Let's try a footer component. Let's say carousel. Mm, let's say this is a carousel component. Okay, this is also a great carousel that I think we can install and use in our project. So let's do one thing. I'll install this. I'll remove this. I'll rename this as simple carousel that we can use again and again. What I am doing here is just simply putting up components and creating a template for the website. How good your website looks totally depends upon your creativity, how creative you are with it, what use case are you using it for, right? I hope you get my point. Similar to what demo I showed, that it helped me out with a project that I built in a UI competition. It totally depends upon your creativity. So let's just say I import it here in the page.tsx file. Now we also have this component, the carousel component, and surprisingly, it actually looks nice. So you see, this looks very nice to me. It has some, micro animations as well. You can, it is totally up to your creativity. If you maybe, let's just say you're creating a portfolio website of your own. If you want a bunch of pictures of yourself to be added, you can add it here. Or let's just say you are creating a website for some application. You can put it down here. Let's add one more component and then we'll move to the next section. Let's just say this is also a very nice component. We have actually used it in our Keploy official website as well. I'll show you where we have used it. So I'll just simply install it and use it. So what is the name of this component? So this seems like more like a draggable card component. We have the same component in our website as well. This is draggable cards, right? So we'll also use this in our application. What you can just simply do is you can create a file inside your component folder. Let's just name it something. I'll like drag me down, since I used to be a One Direction fan. What I'll do is I'll just simply install it. I think it has been installed on my system. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll pick the code up from here. I'll put it down here. I'll rename this uh, function here, drag me down. And now I'll use this component in my page.tsx file so that it is visible on my website as well. So what I'll do is I'll just simply import it here. Now if I get back to my page, I can see this component in my website as well. I think it is taking some time to load. Yep. So you see, these are all the draggable cards that we picked up from here, right? So although for now it contains, very random placeholder pictures, but if you're creative enough, you can come up with something which makes sense. So if you go to Keploy.io, I can show you a bunch of, uh, these components that we have also used. For example, if I go to, let's just say if I go to contract testing page, hmm, I think we have used it somewhere. I need to remember where did we use it. I think it was in the API testing page. Nope, not there. I need to remember which page we used it on. But yeah, the truth is that we did use it on some page, and it actually turned out to be very good looking. And uh, never mind, I'll show it on my local. Mm. By the way, the Keploy landing page is also built on top of Next.js, and it is the same way that I showed you, the same way that we have been creating so many components and using it again and again. So this is the actual uh, Keploy landing page. So let's just say if I write trackable card here, let me first see if I have that component. Yep, we have draggable card here. So if I copy this draggable card container. No, but I think it will take a lot of time. But yeah, did you guys get my point? Get my point? How to actually use components, align all the components, and turn it into a website. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think you understand it and you're actually going to use it in your own project? 10. Anurag says 10. Alka says 10. Adrisha says 7. Thala for a reason though. Athav says 8. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So, I'll tell you one quick insight here. So, creating pages is a thing, but creating good looking pages is a thing. You can pick a bunch of components and just place it here and there. It will turn out to be a website. But whether it looks good or not depends upon your creativity, how well you can make it. So, if you go to some uh, some website that was built using Eternity, you can maybe see maybe get some ideas. Let's just go to showcase. Let's see these websites. All of these are built using the UI libraries and the UI components. We also built something using these components. A friend of mine built this platform called as Evanth.io. He used a bunch of UI libraries to create this good looking front end for his platform, and it is doing quite well. I think he has changed it a little bit, but yeah. So you see, these are all UI components picked up from different UI libraries. The only thing making it look good is creativity, how creative you are with the components. There are, let's just say, if you compare a bunch of UI libraries, you pick multiple components from different libraries and pile them up accordingly, you will get a good looking website eventually. So I want to give you guys a small assignment. Why don't you guys create something out of it, deploy it, and share it to me, or maybe on social media itself? I'm not asking you to give me a shout out, but you can do one thing. You can try to create good looking UI. Maybe it could be a portfolio of your own. It could be, let's just say, a website that you tried creating for some platform. Let's just say you tried creating a platform, or let's just say a website for something, and maybe put it on social media, build it on public. You can use any UI libraries that you like. But one thing you need to ensure is that since this is the open source community, whatever UI library you're using, you need to give a shout out to them, mention them. Let's just say you're using Eternity UI, right? Put it on LinkedIn that or Twitter that you know, I created this website using Eternity UI inspired by Mannu Paji, and this is something I've built. And you know the best part, the open source community is so supportive. The people you tag, the components or the tools that you use, they will actually reshare it. So what I would suggest you is that grabbing attention or going to people is a thing, but attracting opportunities is a different thing. Instead of looking for opportunities, you should build it for yourself. You know that you created a very good project. I know that you created a good project, but how would others know about it, right? So I want you guys to take initiative, build a lot of things using UI libraries, share it with people so that people can understand that you're talented enough. For example, Rohit shared a project of his that is nanobonds.versal. It seems to be a great website. I would suggest, Rohit, you should share it with people on social media. It is okay if you don't want to give shout outs to people, but you do share it with people because building in public can actually attract opportunities for you. I like it. I like it. There are very less red flags in this website. This seems to be a good one. Start investing. Okay, I'll check it out later as well properly. So I hope you guys are getting my point that you should, if you've learned something good in this session, build UI for yourself, share it with people so that you can attract opportunities. Did you get my point? If yes, let's write, let's go. We have a limited number of time, limited amount of time for now. So we'll quickly go to the next, or let's just say the last part of the session. Since a lot of you were curious about Keploy, what Keploy does, how does it work, and so on, right? So we'll be talking about Keploy. So Keploy is basically a platform where we, provide automated and AI powered testing tools. So we have two primary tools. That is, one is for integration testing and the other one is for API testing. The integration testing one is automated integration testing, which is more like a CLI tool. You can just simply go to the documentation and install it, and get started with your integration tests. This is also open source and also a part of GSoC, so that you guys can also contribute to it or maybe build on top of it. But one thing that I personally feel could be a very good use case for you guys is our API testing platform. So what you just need to do is just go to app.keploy.io, and let's just say if you want to, if you're creating an application, right? Let's just say you're creating a full stack application. I have this. Yep. Let's just say you created this particular application, full stack application. It has some API, right? But how do you know this API is working properly? You need to perform some API tests. So we need to write API tests for ourselves. Let's just say we created different APIs for different things. For example, I had this one login API, one sign up API. Let's just say loading API was one thing, post API was one thing. So I have a bunch of APIs with myself, right? And to ensure that each API and each functionality is working properly, I need to write API tests for the same, right? But to write the API tests, I would first have to manually think and create tests to test my APIs. Because let's just say I have to create test cases for the login flow, right? So I'll first write a test case for user name check. Let's just say password check, and then maybe I would think of some edge cases. For example, let's just say wrong password check. So for one single API endpoint, I would have to think of so many test cases and actually manually create these test cases. And also thinking of edge cases is actually a very huge task when you're testing out APIs. This is the reason why a bunch of platforms sometimes they go down because the edge cases have not been tested properly, right? But if you're using Keploy, you don't have to do a lot of things. What you can just simply do is you can simply put the URL of your API endpoint. It could be local as well. Let's just say it was something like local localhost 3000 slash API slash login. So maybe this could be an API endpoint for you, right? Or let's just say some deployed API as well. It could be github.com and so on, right? So you can just simply put your API endpoint here, add some curl commands. Curl commands is basically the commands that you write to test your application on the terminal. If you ask to any LLM like ChatGPT or maybe Gemini, they will give you some curl commands that you can use to test this application. Why we are using this is to make the AI confident enough to understand our application. You are just putting up your API endpoint, but Keploy will automatically understand what your API is trying to do, so it will think of edge cases and smart cases as well. So I'll do one thing. Uh, I'll test a very big application that we created to test our platform. It was a pet clinic application. I will give no context to Keploy. I would just say, uh, I would just give the API endpoint and some curl commands. And you see, Keploy will automatically generate all the test cases and the edge cases. So I gave this API endpoint, right? And then out of Postman collection, schema document, curls, you can give whatever you want. Schema document is basically telling what your application is, right? Again, I think an LLM would be able to give you so. So if I click on generate API tests, it will automatically start creating API tests for you. You didn't have to think of any test cases, any edge cases, or manually go and create them. Within 4 to 5 minutes, you will get all the test cases for your APIs. So just like any other LLM that you see, that it shows you the thinking process, Kepler also similarly shows you the thinking process. It will generate the test cases in three simple steps. Firstly, it will start with, you know, generating the primary test cases that everyone needs to have in their application. And in the third step, it will think of the edge cases so that nothing is missed. Once this process is done in 4 to 5 minutes, you can just simply go to your test suite and you can see all the test cases it created. So for example, let's just say it created these many test suites. So it created a happy path. Let's just say it created a test case for delete wet. I did not tell Keploy about anything. I did not tell what my application is. I just gave an endpoint. I just gave a documentation for a context, right? And it created so many test cases for me. So you see, what could be, let's just say, uh, a potential test case if someone is deleting a vet. So maybe it would be create a vet, get vet, update vet, delete vet, and get verify whether the deletion was completed or not. So it created all these test cases for me, right? Let's just say, and also above everything, it also tells you about the buggy test cases for you. For example, if I get back here and if I see that it marked as a bug, a potential bug, maybe there was an edge case that I missed. So it will point it out and tell me that maybe this could be a potential bug, and it also gives me some suggestions of how we can, maybe fix it. And it also tells you how confident the AI is with the bug that you're seeing. So you see, and one more thing, you can also visualize everything here. Let's just say that this was the flow of your application. First, you create something, then you add first pet, and maybe then clean up and then delete, and so on and on. And then you can also go to the dashboard to visualize everything. This is, let's just say, a very big application. Let's just say that we may be trying to build a e-commerce application which has a lot of endpoints and all. To keep everything in one single place, you can just simply use this, that these are the endpoints, and to keep a track of everything, to keep a track of your application, whether it is working properly or not. So this was Deploy. This is basically testing your APIs using AI. So what would usually take you at least 2 to 3 hours to create edge cases and API test on yourself manually, Keploy will simply create it within 4 to 5 minutes. What do you think about it? If you guys think this is nice, then maybe you can write Keploy is amazing in the chat. Mm, not forcing you, not forcing you to do so, but if you like the idea, if you like the problem that we're solving, you guys can write it. And one second, what if I tell you that this entire step of creating API tests using AI could be even simpler? Would you believe me that maybe I am lazy, I don't want to give the AI context, I don't want to give my schema document or curl. What I can do is I can just simply go to any application that I want to test. It could be local or deployed. I will just simply install a Chrome extension by Keploy. What I will do is I'll just reset the DB. Cool. I'll click on record API calls. So now Keploy will automatically record all the API calls. For example, let's just say I'm trying to make an API call. So if I click on show more button, maybe it will call an API, right? To load more of the my deployments, right? So Keploy will automatically record all the API calls. So you see, Keploy captured 26 API calls, and now you can create tests for them. You can also filter it out. For example, I only want to test the API endpoints that are for Vercel. So I'll just simply apply filter and click on generate tests. So now I did not want to maybe give some curl commands or schema document. Keploy will automatically generate everything for you. So you see here, you can maybe configure everything. Maybe, Keploy is trying to understand your application, right? You were giving curl commands or schema document earlier, but now since Keploy is actually recording all the flows that you made, or the connection, or let's just say the request that your application made, it automatically understands your application and then create the test cases for you. Now tell me, do you like it? Do you think it is solving a problem? If it is so, let's write deploy rock deploy is amazing. Let's have a spam. Let's have a spam. I will show it to my teammates that people actually like the problem we are solving. Mhm. I'll take a screenshot for me to share it with my team. Mm. Cool, then we can get ahead with the questions as well now. We'll have a 5 to 10 minutes of questionnaire. You guys can ask whatever you guys want to ask. We'll pick up the questions. I'll just quickly take a screenshot of people. What are potential future development directions for Keploy's app, especially in terms of features, integrations, and developer experience? I'll tell you one great insight that we recently launched a feature to test your applications inside a Kubernetes cluster. This is like one of a kind that we're doing. So Keploy is pretty famous for its integration testing. For the CLI tool, we've recently launched our record replay in Kubernetes clusters as well. And in future, we also plan to do contract testing properly, security testing, performance testing. There are a bunch of problems that we would love to solve. Yes, please provide some suggestions for starting contribution to Keploy for GSoC. We need in-depth tutorial for Keploy testing and hidden features. Okay. You can simply do one thing. You can go to keploy.io/docs. Write the I'll put the link in the chat as well. You guys can read it properly, or maybe you can go to keploy.io, and there's this uh, ragbot that you can see at the bottom right, and you can ask anything you want from that particular bot. We've trained it. We've spent a lot of time training that bot for you guys to ask away your questions. Any other questions? Also, if you guys want to start contributing to Keploy, you guys can simply go to Keploy's uh, GitHub repo. I'll share the link to that as well. You can pick the issues up. There are very good first issues for you to maybe contribute to, and then you can maybe raise a pull request for the same. And one more thing that you can do is you can share your experience. For example, if you go to Keploy's repository and check out this URL, you can share your experience using Keploy. And we are actually merging the PRs that you guys share about Keploy. For example, let's just say uh, Rohit tried to maybe tried our API testing platform, and he found it nice. Maybe he tried to create some application, and he maybe shared his story that I tried Keploy for testing out this application, and he created a simple README file explaining what he did. They will merge these kind of pull requests for now. Like, this is the very basic, I would say, that basic README files are not always appreciated, but in case you just want to get started with Keploy, you can, because it tells us that you actually understand the application, that what it is doing. Keeping Keploy aside, as a beginner, what would you recommend one focus most on at our own place, front end, back end, or complete full stack? Considering the privilege of having so many AI agents, so many AI tools, and so many tutorials all over the internet, I would suggest you to go full stack. And at the same time, be very good at AI engineering. For example, how to use AI agents, how to use AI tools, and bring the best out of them. So even if you try to do it just front end, I would say just front end isn't a very good a very big thing to have as of now. But I would say, uh, you know, go full stack. Try to understand the entire workflow of an application from the front end, from the back end, from the APIs, from creating different features. You can use AI for the understanding part as well. But the point is, go for it. Can I contribute to any Keploy's backend features for GSoC? Yes, you can. If you go to a repository, there are a bunch of features that you can test it out. There are issues related to Golang. A primary tech stack is Golang. You can pick up issues from Golang for backend and contribute to us as well. Any other questions, by the way? Any other questions? If you guys have any questions, you can ask by then. I'll just quickly go through the chat. Cool. And if we don't have any questions, I think we're good to wrap. Is there anyone from the GDG team?
Yes, sir.
Again, oh, I'm sir.
Sorry.
What's up? We guys can do one thing before we wrap the session. We can write GDG IIIT Kalyani OP in the chat. I will do so because I personally like the initiative that these guys are doing. GDG OP, GDG IIIT Kalyani. Hmm. Cool. And if you guys have any other questions or any other things that you guys want to get clarified, you guys can reach me on my socials. But please make sure that you don't do it on weekdays where like working hours. Please avoid doing so. Oops, I think I gave the wrong link. It is not loud. Mm, Abhishek is asking, I'm proficient in JS. Can I help contributing to deploy? Yes, you can do so. So what we have this a thing called as quick starts. So, maybe in the integration testing part of Keploy, we have a bunch of quick starts. For example, how to test applications on TypeScript, how to test your applications on JavaScript. Maybe you can create an application in JavaScript and raise a PR for the quick start. We want as many quick starts as possible so that people can test out Keploy on your applications. I'll add the link for that as well. Quick starts. Mm. So you see, if you go to the documentation, this link that I shared, you will see a bunch of quick starts for JavaScript, TypeScript, Golang, Java, and more. You can also contribute to it maybe by creating an application and helping us test out deploy. And apart from that as well, you can contribute once the GSoC projects are announced. We'll let you know. Cool then. It was great talking to you guys. Thanks for joining Adrisha, Athar, Abhishek, uh, Nayonika. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. Thanks, Anurag. I remember Danish. Akansha is from GDG. Okay. Arush, Mohit, Atharv, Kishan. It was great talking to you guys. Have a great weekend. Make something cool. Make some cool UI. Share it with people publicly so that you can make a good presence publicly. You can attract opportunities as well. So cool. And yes, if you're making something really cool, just the way Rohit did, please share it with me. I would love to give my inputs. I have bookmarked it, Rohit's project as well. Cool then. See you guys. Let's go. Bye.
Thank you, Aman. It was a great session with you.
Who is this, by the way? Is this Saksham?
Srijan,
Oh, okay.
Saksham
Hi.
is not with us.
Cool, cool. No worries. Bye then.
Thank you. Seeing you in future.
Yes, yes, yes. Hopefully, I would love to get back to Triple IT Kalyani. I like the energy here.
We would love to have you with us. Thank you.
Cool then. Bye bye. Good night.
Good night.